welcome to another edition of the NBA Slate Starter podcast. I'm Eric, joined with my buddy Emac as we break down Monday's 8-game NBA DFS slate on DraftKings, FanDuel, and Yahoo. Well, Emac, it's that time. You were the very first guest in the history in 2 seasons of the NBA Slate Starter podcast. How does it feel to be such a distinguished, honored guest?
It's actually a privilege. I was shocked when you told me that I was the first person aside from you and Ryan that have been on this show. So it's a good time. You and I have done a few shows together here and there. I don't think we've done very many since the late night swap and sweat show that we did last year for the basketball season. So that was a lot of fun. I watch a lot of your shows. Big fan of your content. We message each other a fair amount as well, but I don't get to interact with you in real time all that often. So I'm excited.
I was gonna say, you're one of the OGs of the industry. I mean, I've been watching you forever. A little bit of that, but it's great to be on with you. Great to have you as an analyst here on this side. I know you're a little bit more accustomed to the hosting, but I guess I'm the captain now. I think that's going to be what it is here on the front end. But I think we're going to have some fun. We've got 8 games. We're looking forward to this. We're in the middle of a slate right now that I don't know how I'm not winning money, because I think I'm going to end up winning money with this Clippers game getting going. If Paul George can go nuts, that would be excellent. Maybe a little Reggie Jackson. How is the NBA slate going for you here Sunday night?
The NBA slate's kind of marginal for me. I had some good exposure to some of the key players in that San Antonio game. I got the Bobby Portis play right, but DeJounte Murray didn't get there far enough. I played some on Yahoo. I had Josh Giddey where he was 22. That didn't work out very well. And then I had to go with Damian Lee, who's not doing well. I may cash in my 50-50s. I don't think I'll make it in the tournaments, but had a decent day on Yahoo for NFL. And then I lucked into a few winner take alls on DK to help me break even, where I had the Philadelphia Chargers game. And that one worked out with Herbert and who was, I forget which one of his receivers.
Devonta Smith went nuts. And Keenan Allen went nuts.
Yeah, Devonta Smith is the run back. Keenan Allen. And Eckler wasn't great, but did just enough. And everybody else failed today miserably on the NFL. It's been a long time since we've seen one like that. I know this is the basketball show, but did you expect the Bills to score only 6 points?
No, I did not. In the top stack, so I think 25%. So a quarter of the time they end up the top stack. I'm going to say this was one of the 75% where they didn't, throwing it out there. But it was a crazy NFL Sunday. James Conner, I hate you. But other than that, everything else was pretty good. I did well in cash, didn't do well in tournaments, and I don't play much cash ever. So I'm really glad that I made that decision, because I thought it was pretty clear cut the way you needed to build, and I split up my 2 lineups and had a bunch of wide receiver exposure and rotated it. But we are back. It is NBA time, so hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you know when this and all the other content at Awesemo here is going live. Emac, are you ready to dig into this slate, my dude?
I am. Just off the jump, I know we have a few back-to-backs here. The Charlotte Hornets, the Sacramento Kings, the Golden State Warriors, and there's one other lurking, Brooklyn. Those teams all played on Sunday and are playing again on Monday.
Yeah, so you're going to always want to be reacting a little bit. Most people react to the box score the day before. It's a recency bias thing. It's part of the edge to NBA DFS is being able to react to what other people are doing. But looking at the point guard position, for me, the main thing that I notice about this slate is that you have the Knicks and you have the Sixers starting at that 7 p.m. Eastern time window, 4 p.m. out here on the West Coast. And then you don't have another game start until 8. You have a full hour after that first game locks. A lot of times in the past, they would make that front one an island game, and they wouldn't necessarily have it as part of the main slate, but they do today. So I think that that's going to be a fascinating deal with late news. And boy, do we have some big news that already dropped here. And I think it's going to make it very, very fascinating the way that we end up playing this slate. Anthony Davis, of course, waiting for his questionable status. I wish he had just sat yesterday, but that's a different conversation. Looking at the top end of point guard here, we got Luka Doncic on DK, Steph Curry there at 10-5 in the middle of a high-scoring game right now in the first half against the Rockets. Russell Westbrook 10-4, James Harden 10-1. Which of the 4 10K players at point guard is your priority?
So I think for me, we're looking at, which one are we looking at, DK?
DraftKings.
All right, sorry. Between the guards and the guard for the multi-position eligibility and all this, it's a little crazy. So, sorry, I just want to make sure I had everything set to the filters correctly. So, for me, it's probably going to be Luka Doncic. The New Orleans they've kind of brought teams down to their level, I guess is a better way of saying it. They haven't been the source of fantasy goodness that we would like to have seen previously. But I mean, come on, it's Luka Doncic here, and we know he's more or less impervious whether Kristaps Porzingis is in or out. I think he's probably the number one point guard I would be looking to for this one. But, we're talking about a fringe all-star there. Steph Curry's kind of an interesting one, coming off 4 consecutive games. I guess depending on what he does tonight, but 4 consecutive games of barely getting into 40 fantasy points, 39, 42, 37, then whatever he does tonight. That's a little bit disappointing, to say the least. He in none of those games has he taken more than 20 field goal attempts. That's something that we saw him do like 5 out of 6 games right after the first game, or the first game, or from the first games of the season. He's that's career best for him. I think he'll change. He's someone that the way he plays, it doesn't back-to-backs don't seem to affect him or impact him quite as much. He doesn't expend that much energy on defense. And as long as he's relatively healthy like he is at the beginning of this year, I don't think that's going to be a big issue for him. Going against Atlanta, they've been a little bit better defensively this year than they have in the past. And then Russell Westbrook is the other guy. I like him from a fantasy perspective when one of the superstars is sitting. It's been a little disappointing the last couple games. That Portland game last night that seemed like an anomaly, but the Lakers don't play fast. They've turned over basically their entire roster with the exception of LeBron and AD and a couple other 2 other players. So it's like a whole new team, but they're not like the best on defense, but they're just not playing fast. I was hoping Russell Westbrook would be dragging them up and down the court like he did with the Wizards when the stars are not playing. I think we will see that at some point. Charlotte coming in on the back-to-back, they tend to play a little bit faster, and they have the second worst defensive efficiency in the league. So amongst those top-end players, and this is where we're going to be spending our money, I think I would rank them Luka 1, Westbrook 2, even if Davis plays, and then Curry probably 3 from that standpoint.
I think I'm going to have the most of Russell Westbrook, probably bar none. 10-4 for him. He shot the ball terrible against Portland. 1 for 13. It was abysmal. It was a garbage performance, 6 turnovers alongside. It didn't even reach double digits. But Anthony Davis, I don't know if this finger injury is going to be something that's going to keep him out. It was like an illness, apparently, is the thing that kept him out of the last game that surprised, he was done after the first quarter. He was done because they were down 20 and they didn't want to injure him at that point in time. But I'm looking at, it was awful. But at the top end here, I'm probably going to be going Russ and then Luka. I think that would be kind of the only inversion I have there. James Harden, 10-1. This Bulls team has been pretty darn good defensively here in some spots and just good in general. So I'm okay kind of siding a little bit more towards the Russell Westbrook side. But a lot of options we have kind of going down into the mid-tier here. I'm looking at a number of guys. I mean, Brandon Ingram, if he's going to be out, you've got a 6,300 Devontae Graham. Tyrese Halliburton's at 6K now. Has started to flash a little bit of upside here and there. A number of guys in this mid-range. Is there anybody that catches your eye down there? 5-6K on DK.
So for me, I always like to see what Lonzo Ball is up to. He's playing a ton of minutes. The usage just is not there. They're working together with the four key players coming together for the first time with Vucevic, with Zach, with DeMar, and then of course with LaMelo. Pardon me, not with LaMelo, with Lonzo. And then you've got Alex Caruso floating around there as well. It's interesting to see how they're putting them all together. Going against Brooklyn used to be such a gimme. It hasn't been at all this year, and so I'm calling this up. They have the 4th best defensive efficiency on the season now. So the interesting thing here with the defensive efficiency and the pace numbers. So we know we're losing about 3 points per game compared to last year. There's about 4.5 less fouls per game, which is sort of impacting things. And what we were trying to explain this on the strategy show, which of course we have, 6 days a week. And once NFL's over, we'll be adding that back on Sundays. The interesting thing on that is the pace numbers are impacted as well, because people have lost track of the fact that when there's the foul shots, it stops the play. It adds another possession. It doesn't mean people are moving up and down the court faster. Pace just generally means how how deep into the shot clock are you really going? Because you can deliberately take the ball up the court, but if you shoot right away when you get there, that's the same as moving it up quickly, passing it around until you get to the open man, and then shooting a three, right? So the pace numbers, I think people are getting a little misled on that these days. But back to your actual question for the mid tier, I think I would go with secret option C here. Dare I say Tyler Hero? I don't know what to do with him. 4 of his last 5, he's gone over 35 fantasy points. It seems like he is taking that next step. The field goals have been there for the most part. It's mostly in the mid-teens. Now, people are going to hear us talk a lot about things. It's all about opportunity and volume in the NBA. It's all counting stats. So the people that are taking the most shots and that are out on the court the longest, they're the ones that are going to rack up the points, because they're ultimately going to end up with rebounds or steals or other stats that add to them. Hero's also been taking a lot of 3-pointers, and then he's been chipping in with rebounds. That's the one part that may not be sustainable, but he's approaching a career high in his rebounding rate, which is something I was not expecting to see, but we have seen it consistently, which is rather weird. Do we have news here on Lowry? Is he available?
Yeah, Lowry's going to be available. So
okay.
He's going to be fine. 7,900 for him. He's coming off of a ceiling game against Utah. He was awesome in that spot. Derrick Rose was a source of value today for a lot of people. Kemba Walker will be back in there. So not concerned. They're just kind of monitoring him. They did the same thing with Mike Conley on Sunday's slate. So Utah not here. Don't have to worry about them. But that's going to kind of round it out for that mid-level in the year. And then some of the punts we'll talk over on FanDuel here. We'll keep them moving by site here. Luka Doncic on the top and they're 10-2. Steph Curry 9,800, James Harden 9,600, Russell Westbrook 9,400. FanDuel wants it to be pretty easy for you to play a lot of these studs on the top end, and you should be able to get to at least 2 of those guys, maybe 3 in pretty much every single lineup. Obviously, positionality is a big part of it, and Anthony Davis, if he's in, I want to get to a ton of him too, but I will say point guard, much easier to get to. Looser pricing for sure on FanDuel. Moving our way down to the mid-tier, Chris Paul at 8,300. He's been a staple of a lot of FanDuel lineups here. He continues to get there repeatedly and is a really good option. But Kyle Lowry, 6,200. That's where he really sticks out for me. Jordan Poole is in the middle of like an absolute ceiling game. I'll throw that out there too. I'm sure he'll get some steam just because of something like that. And Lonzo Ball, 5,900. Is there some kind of a play that sticks out to you a little bit more on FanDuel than they did on DK?
Just looking down the list here, probably Kyle Lowry stands out dramatically. 38 plus in 3 of his last 4. Does seem to be healthy. We know minutes are not going to be an issue. It's always funny. Have you ever seen a more athletic backcourt than him and Fred VanVleet? Yeah. Oh wait, at least a less athletic backcourt than him and Fred.
They won an NBA title, so we probably can't talk too much trash about them at this point. And just Toronto is not very good at
No, they're missing way too many people. But the Kyle Lowry that's a steal of a number here. The usage has not been as high. He's deferring to Bam. He's deferring to Jimmy Butler when it comes to taking field goals. Basically, maybe half of his games he's gone over nine field goal attempts. He has not really gone over 11. So it's kind of in that 8 to 11 range. That's going to kind of hurt him. So his big games, he's just been draining it from 3 his last 4 games. He's 3 of 5, 2 of 7, 6 of 9, and 4 of 5 from 3-point range. That's going to go away, but the assists should continue to be there. The rebounds have been a little bit higher than expected, but he's someone that always kind of contributes across the board. He's always been content to just let the other people get theirs and be more of a facilitator. So, but at 6,200, that takes a lot of the risk out of it, that if he only takes 8 shots and makes 3 of them, it's not going to be the end of the world if he's getting a handful of rebounds and double-digit assists. So he's probably the first guy I look at. The Devontae Graham is kind of interesting at 6,500 as well. I misspoke when I said the New Orleans. The New Orleans offense has been incredibly disappointing. They actually have the worst defensive efficiency, but I keep thinking I conflate it with the other teams are so busy kicking their ass. I think they've only won 1 or 2 games this year, but the other teams kick their ass so bad. They're barely getting around 100 points, but it's the bench benches of the other teams is doing a lot of the damage later in the games because they're just been out of hand. So while I was thinking it was their defense, it's actually their lack of offense that is hurting the stars from the opposing teams than anything else. So, but back to Devontae Graham going against Dallas, I like that 6,500. That's decent. And then from Dallas, you do have Jalen Brunson. He's kind of an interesting guy. He contributes across the board. I think he's, to me, not his playing style, but his production is very similar to Kyle Lowry's in that he does a little bit of everything. He can kind of fill in for whatever they need, and he's on the closing unit, right? But then he's somebody that will end up deferring a lot more to Porzingis than, and obviously Doncic, the way he plays is unique amongst anybody and takes the ball out of the hand of the other guards. But he seems like someone that fits in quite nicely there because he can do a lot of things without the ball. And that's something I think, or without scoring as well. And I think that's something that's important to remember. The price is up a little bit from where it was when he was in the 4,000s, but I still think at 5,400, that's somebody to consider as well as we start to look for some discount options.
Yeah, so he's over a DraftKings point per minute at the moment, so on the entire season. So I don't think that he's necessarily going to be a bad play, but I will say I expect with Kristaps Porzingis back and then Dorian Finney-Smith, Tim Hardaway Jr., there's a lot of guys. I think he's been getting a little bit more run as a result of that. He slid into the starting lineup here recently as well. We'll see if that continues. I think if that continues, yeah, you can definitely go there. Not my favorite guy with Kristaps back, but definitely somebody to consider. Tyrese Maxey is the guy I was saving for the Yahoo slate specifically, but he applies to every single spot here. You're still going to have Tobias Harris out. Matisse Thybulle is going to be out here once again as well. Tyrese Maxey, $19. The guy just hasn't really had the ceiling performance, but you know what he has had? Crazy amount of minutes. 44 plus minutes his last two. So if you like minutes and you like somebody who in a box in a vacuum should be putting up fantasy points, I hope you like Tyrese Maxey tomorrow. He kind of stands out as the guy. I made Shake Milton a thing, and now I'm going to make Tyrese Maxey a thing. I'm going to make Tyrese Maxey a thing no matter what tomorrow. I don't mind playing both in the same lineup because, again, when you're playing 36 plus minutes, you can play just about anybody not named PJ Tucker. So what do you think about him? And we'll round out the Yahoo slate.
Yeah, I definitely think he's someone that we want to look at on Yahoo for sure. The $19 is just very convenient. You've got, you mentioned Shake Milton. He's at 15. You've got Pat Beverly, who's had a bit of a resurgence here, had a hiccup there in his last game where he only had 5 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, a disappointing 12 fantasy points. But he's someone that probably should be in the mid to upper 20s in this one. Although now that he's 15 instead of the bare minimum on Yahoo, becomes a little bit more of a challenge. I don't know what's going on with Gary Payton the second, but he has had back-to-back 30 fantasy point games. Of course, he's playing tonight. He has been doing it mostly on hitting every shot that he takes. He's only played 17 minutes in each of the last 2 games and is scoring almost 2 fantasy points per minute. Giannis Antetokounmpo, he is not, but at 11, that's where you start to look at who might have some upside, but those would be the guys at the bottom. Then you got Kemba Walker. What do we do with Kemba Walker? He is got a day off for rest here. Barely played in his last game, only 15 minutes. Had been starting to look like he was turning a corner a little bit. He is not the Kemba Walker of old, but at $17 on Yahoo, if he's someone that can flirt with 30 fantasy points, we try to get that 2x off their salary and then have the ability to get another 10 points on upside. That's something he does have access to. I don't know that it's going to be on the regular, but I just don't know what to do with Kemba Walker. I thought we were getting decent.
Yeah,
Kemba.
Hang on one second. So I think Tibbs said in his post game that Kemba still has a chance where he might not play today.
Okay.
So that was something that he had talked about a little bit. Again, Derrick Rose was a thing, and Derrick Rose would be a thing again tomorrow, even though he didn't have the ceiling. Also, shout out Ricky Rubio. What in the absolute hell? But I definitely think that Derrick Rose would be kind of the guy you want to look at. Kemba Walker, don't trust it. I will even say like Jalen Brunson, $20. That's definitely not going to be for me over there. That's going to be more specific to the other sites. I just think Derrick Rose there at 18, Tyrese Maxey at 19, Shake Milton at 15. They're going to absorb rightfully a lot of that. And Gary Payton II, I won't roster him tomorrow, but I will say best nickname in the NBA, the Mitten.
The Mitten.
as good as it gets. His dad was the glove, in case you didn't know that. I bet you did. Let's jump to shooting guard on the top end of DraftKings. Devin Booker, Zach LaVine on the top end, 9,200, 8,600. We've got Anthony Edwards, 8K there. The one question mark, D'Angelo Russell. If he ends up being back, that's definitely going to be something that I don't see being advantageous for a lot of these Wolves, but we might have a little bit of value to extract. Even 8K, I think Anthony Edwards, that's a little bit lower tag than we've seen of recent form. He's been 8,500, 8,400, 8,200 his last 3 games. Now at 8K, that's useful. But the last guy to kind of throw in there, Andrew Wiggins is up to 6,600 for God knows what reason. Do not play him on DraftKings. Talk to me about shooting guard, Emac.
Yeah, DraftKings, the pricing is kind of all over the place here. So I think Tyler Hero, we mentioned him at point guard, but at 6,600, he's somewhat intriguing there. We've got Jordan Poole at 58. That's okay. It doesn't look like this is the spend options. I don't want to pay 9,200 for Devin Booker. Right. I'd rather play him over there on FanDuel where he is 8,500. Granted, the only guy who's like shooting guard eligible, but he has done a lot to change, or let's phrase this a different way. Every game he plays with Chris Paul, they're getting better and better at meshing. Now he's good at operating without the ball in his hands, without dominating it. Paul's happy to just, pass the ball to everybody. He's been playing more minutes than I expected, but if you watch some of those later games, even when it's out of hand, he's out there. He never even goes into the paint, but he just directs the offense, brings the ball up, just keeps everything going. Those guys are now averaging almost 1.2 Yahoo fantasy points per minute together, whereas last year Booker was almost 0.2 below his normal numbers when he was on the court with Paul. So that's something that's normalized quite nicely here. I like both of them in most situations, but Booker's a much better price on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. So DraftKings, I think I'll be looking for cheaper options here. To me, it doesn't make sense. There's enough with Philly that I think we can, even if we just mix and match the Seth Currys, Shake Miltons, Furkan Korkmaz's of the world in this might be a spend down position today.
I have a Chris Paul theory, and I was planning on sharing this after this weekend, seeing Chris Paul's like making a run at John Stockton, or I don't know what the actual spread is between it, but I know that assists are the things that he can get the closest to at being like elite, like number 1 or number 2 in the history of the NBA. I'm thinking that he's just letting Devin Booker do all of the work to score the basketball. One of my favorite props that I've been betting almost every single night is the under on Chris Paul free throws made. I'm just telling you right now, it's hit like 4 of the last 5. I think it was at 4.5 against Sacramento, and it has dropped all the way. I've been betting unders on like 2.5, and last game is the first time I've lost forever, and he got all of it in garbage time when they were basically against Atlanta, just kind of like treading it off. So I'm just throwing it out there. There are places where you can bet that. And I know that sounds like a stupid one, but you watch some of those games, Chris Paul is not involved. Chris Paul just like distributes. He does not go into the paint, doesn't want to get hurt. That's kind of how it works. Did it just go really static? What's going on?
No, I've got, they're trying to get it. My computer fan is decided to turn itself on, and it's over by the microphone.
All right.
Yeah, well, it's because I was calling up Basketball Reference here, and it didn't like the ads that were on the page. Because I wanted to see what his career number. So he's got four free throw attempts per game, which is more or less in line what he's done for the last few years. So you're walking a very fine line there. I agree with you that for me it's been the assists. He's leading the league. Yeah, he's 12.1 per game. He's the only one that has double-digit assists. There's a couple other people in the high nines when I was looking at this on Saturday.
His career points per game, though, is my other question.
His career points per game is 18. He's down to 12.9.
Yeah.
So exactly. He's, to your point, he is, and what I was saying, he's facilitating. He's out there. He's also getting by on steals and blocks. He's got 2.3 steals this year. That's something those are the rates he had back, at the end of his New Orleans days, start of his Clippers days. That's 8 years ago, right? That's not current times. So the fantasy production has been there, but it's definitely coming on assists and other peripherals. It's not coming on scoring. And then even his field goal attempts 9.3. First time in his career he's ever been in single digits, and that's 3 less per game than last year. He averaged 12 and a half basically each of the last 3 seasons. So that was one with Houston, one with Oklahoma City, and one with Phoenix. We know about what he's going to do. He's doing way less. So everything that you are saying with him deferring, or at least looking like that's what's going to happen with Booker, is actually happening. And then he's third in all-time assists. Catching Stockton will be hard. He needs another 50% of his career assists.
He's not going to do that. Yeah, no, I was just curious what the spread was, but I think he's trying to get himself to like isolated number 2 spot.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's behind Jason Kidd by 1,700. So that's 2 more seasons than he'll pass Kidd.
All right, going down to shooting guard, rest of the position here. We've got Jordan Poole, again, going completely nuts. I'm looking at his line. Got 23, 3, and 2 in the first half against the Rockets. That's pretty good. He's going to be popular tomorrow, just throwing it out there. Seth Curry, 5,800. I haven't been playing Seth Curry, but again, we're looking at every single guy on this team playing 35-plus minutes. They're very shorthanded. There's no doubt there's going to be a lot of minutes on the table here for the Philadelphia. So I hate locking up so many positions in the early slate of games. But even Furkan Korkmaz at shooting guard eligibility, under 5K, 4,900. He just got done burning the universe after not being in the starting lineup. Then 4,300, and he goes for 36.5. He's viable as well. Everybody's going to have to play a lot of minutes on this team. Again, I hate it. I'm hoping that there's some news that pops up, some injury news that pops up, so we don't have to play all of this chalk value, because I could just see 1 hour. You have to sit there for 1 hour with your garbage lineups with nobody going off from Philly at 40% ownership each. So I'm just throwing it out there that that's something that I'm going to try to avoid, but it's going to be very hard not to, especially over on FanDuel. We're looking at a couple of these guys. Shake Milton's 5,600 there. That's still doable. Tyrese Maxey, 5,800. And then going down there a little bit further, because I know Furkan Korkmaz is shooting guard only there, 4,700. I think that might be the best spot. Pay attention to that Danny Green news. He's questionable, but in the event he's not in, just expect a lot of Philadelphia ownership. Anything stick out for you over on FanDuel for tomorrow?
No, nothing more than what we hit
Devin
on
Booker.
On that one. Yeah, other than Booker.
I love that. And he's $35. That's pretty advantageous on Yahoo. Anthony Edwards, $33 as well. Zach LaVine, $34. It's just so hard to peg which one of these polls is going to go nuts. He played the 38 minutes. He was the guy who got there over DeRozan the other game, but Chicago's just been a good basketball team here of late. Jordan Poole, he's playing himself into some ownership as we speak. There is no doubt about that. On this bottom end, Seth Curry, $17. That's really nice. I'd probably prefer that to Furkan Korkmaz at $15. Give me your 3 favorite shooting guard plays on Yahoo for tomorrow.
All right. Just quickly looking. It's hard to go between Furkan and Curry. The only thing with Curry is he doesn't do anything besides score. And that's pretty hard if his shot's not falling. He has one of the best shots in the league, up there with his brother and a couple others. But I would start to consider Alex Caruso. He has done a fair amount of time with the second unit. You're probably looking at 20 to 23 fantasy points, but we know he has a role in the rotation, and it's pretty set. And then the variable depends on if he's part of the closing lineup, and if he is, that's where he gets his additional upside. So those are kind of on the cheap side there. I've been trying to figure out what to do with Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He's someone that has just been, it looked like he was going to be breaking out at the start of the season. I mean, he was reeling off 30 fantasy point games. He's done hardly anything since then. He hasn't, in his last 6 games, he hasn't cracked 28 fantasy points. He's kind of right around 20s. His last game, he had 10. I mean, we don't want to be results-based, but everything's just sort of fallen off the face of the earth, which is not what I would have expected. Yes, when skinny Zion comes back, maybe, but not with the current people there. And with Brandon Ingram missing time and all that, I would have thought he would do more. That has not been the case. So he feels like a little bit of a trap. But for me, Booker is the most expensive option at 35, and that's not really expensive for what he's been providing.
So I think I've got you covered on that one. I think for me, it's pretty obvious that J-Val is having a large impact on this team in a lot of unexpected ways.
Oh, we're going to talk about him when we get there, though.
Oh, yeah, no, you go from having Steven Adams, who was there at center. What do you think Steven Adams' usage is on this season? He's 15.2%. I'll just tell you. We got to keep it moving. 15.2% usage, for Steven Adams. I think that that's like on the higher range of what I would expect for him on the entire season. You flip over, you look at JVal right now coming in 25% usage. So like we're looking at a drastic difference in just having him be the center out there as opposed to Steven Adams, who's just kind of existed. And so once you get Zion back there, it's just going to be another guy that needs to get touches. And I think he's just being suppressed a little bit more. I think that was kind of an understated thing, is you get 36 minutes of JVal as opposed to 25 minutes of Steven Adams that you got last year. That's going to have a huge impact on some of the scoring output for guys.
Yeah, and those are all fair points. I just thought we were seeing the leap there.
Yeah, I know.
It was a season-long draft guy.
Exciting.
I've had to cut him in some of my leagues because I needed the spot. So
that's exciting. You know what? You know what's actually exciting though, Emac? Boom! New Yahoo users get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum with your first time deposit bonus. Here's what happens. You set up an account. If you don't already on Yahoo, you deposit $10 or more. You get back a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum, completely free to you. No strings attached, no bells and whistles, no anything. You get the full ensemble, $90 value, completely free to you. Every sport we offer behind the paywall. I'm telling you right now, it doesn't get any better than this. If you want to see the features that we have for NFL, NBA, the Boom Bust tool is worth its weight in gold as it is. Being able to see all of the projections, being able to see ownership projections. I don't know what I would do without them. I'm telling you right now, check out the tools. You will not be sorry, but mainly check out Yahoo as well. It's a 2-for-1 special. Check it out. All righty. Let's go over to the small forward position on the top end. On DraftKings, you can play Luka there. You can play Kevin Durant there, 9,900. It's nice that his tag has finally got down from that like crazy 10-6, 10-8 numbers that just weren't even justified. He does have that 70-point ceiling that he had against Philly, but that was like, the second game of the season, and we haven't seen anything remotely close to that. Him and James Harden sharing a court. Nice to finally have their salaries a little bit understandable there, but Jimmy Butler up to 9,300. It's weird that he probably deserves that number. It's been a little suppressed the last two. They got blown out by Boston at home out of the middle of nowhere. They ended up beating Utah, but obviously that's a tough matchup for him to really get there. And Tyler Hero is playing really well now too. 9,300, tough one for that. Brandon Ingram, 8,400. The guy that I'm just gravitating towards, and I don't know why he took a $400 price cut, is Miles Bridges. He's a different human being this entire season. 7,700 is a really glaring price tag to be looking at. I think a lot of people click it tomorrow. Will you be, Emac?
I'm hoping the recent game log watchers get a little bit nervous here. Now, the Golden State game was an outlier. I mean, he took 22 field goal attempts, made 12 of them, but he had put up 56 DraftKings points. That was his third straight game with over 40, and he has, over 36, in every game except the last two, and he's still playing tonight. I think that game's at
11-2,
right
11-2-0. So, I mean, he's decent enough. 2 minutes left in the first. Or in the first half.
This is this is just impressive, and what's happening is we're seeing his salary tick up quite a bit. This is just a whole new usage for him. I mean, he's flirting with 25-30 a lot of his games. That's major. Now he's not going to sustain that for the full year, but with the way the rotations are going right now and other things, this just looks like a spot where we definitely want to look at him. And it's the preconceived notion of looking at somebody's name and say, "Oh, I can't pay this for this guy," but we look at the numbers here. Did you see Josh's rant on the show this morning where someone said these guys on the football show, they're not giving us their plays after Adam and Josh just spent nonstop talking about numbers and probabilities and whatever, and they're like, but this is all a math problem. It's all a math problem.
I
wish we had this when we were in school, Eric. I wish we had DFS as our story problems. Damn it.
I think there's a perfect. Here's the thing. I want to explain it in the most basic way that I can because I'm not attempting to try to sound smart. I don't claim to know something magic or anything else. All I do is I follow the tools, I follow the information, and then I add my own ability to watch a basketball game and say, these are things that I'm noticing. Can I back them up? Are they backed up by data or are they not? Are they a bias or something that I'm concocting in my mind? And I think that most sharp players, they find a combination, but it's almost all based in the math. And part of what makes NBA DFS so fun, and the reason I think most of you are tuning into Ryan and myself, and now Emac and myself every single day, is to be able to try to solve this problem that is, in a lot of ways, unsolvable. We are trying to embrace making quote unquote worse lineups than the optimal. And If you just want to go play the optimal, play cash games every single day, try to plug in whatever, it spits out within a certain standard deviation, embrace certain amount of risk, just play the guys playing tons of minutes who have a ton of fantasy points per minute, and that's great. But in tournaments, what you're trying to do is you're trying to inherit some of the risk. Say, I think this person should be higher owned than what the public is projecting, and go from there. The new saying that I have for pretty much all of my shows, Emac, is that I like players relative to how other people like players. And I think that that's the fun part of what we do. We're trying to embrace risk. We're trying to give ourselves the opportunity to put ourselves in positions so that when we are right and the field's wrong about something, or when they're more confident than they should be about a certain result, we're able to capitalize it. Oh, and late swap. There you go. That was my quick shebang on that one. Small forward position. Anything else that you kind of want to add from there? We've got Josh Hart 5K is intriguing now that his price has plummeted. He hasn't performed as well as you would hope, being back in there and having no Brandon Ingram there, but 5K is 5K and super cheap. Malik Beasley, 4,600 really stands out. 36 minutes for him against the Clippers in that 20-point loss, but you're going to see him get a boatload of minutes again if you have no D'Angelo Russell. Who else stands out to you at small forward?
Basically the only one, and it's probably the first time I'm ever going to actually recommend him on the show. Normally I don't have to on the weekends. Harrison Barnes.
Oh my God. What?
It's he forever the barnacle of the Bay, the hero of the Awesemo Sims in the early days of the pandemic. I have to go here. He is just getting so many minutes. Now he's doing this on minutes, but he's playing mid to upper 30s every game. He does a little bit of everything, and he's out there long enough just to end up flirting with 40 fantasy points on a nightly basis. We know who Harrison Barnes is. This is not Harrison Barnes, but for the time being, we don't want to look at the name, and we just want to say, well, for whatever reason, basically because they hate Marvin Bagley, but for whatever reason, he's getting a ton of minutes. So ride the wave while it's there. We may not have to go there. Phoenix. By the way, Phoenix not quite the defensive and slow down team that they were last year at all. So we're only eight or 9 games in, but this is not I don't really want to play guys against Phoenix because it goes slow. No, it doesn't. Not like it was last year anyway. So God, here we are talking about Harrison Barnes, the eraser.
I just love it. Don't forget the Suns also are not going to have DeAndre Ayton out there. I think that definitely makes them a little bit more gettable. JaVale McGee out there flopping like a seal, and Frank Kaminsky, who couldn't guard me, so that'll be enjoyable to watch. Heading over to FanDuel here, we got the law firm of Bridges and Bridges. You can play Miles Bridges up at 8,300. You can play Mikal Bridges all the way down there at 5K. I think both of those are really, really nice numbers. Josh Hart, 5,300 sticks out to me. Yeah, boy, if you're going to play him, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, 5,900. We talked about him. Shooting guard, small forward eligible. Jay Crowder, 4,600. I mean, it's kind of a pretty straightforward position. I mean, you got on the top end, Kevin Durant's 10-5. That seems like a little bit of an overpay. DeMar DeRozan has been garnering a ton of traction in the last couple slates on FanDuel, partially helped by 2 back-to-back 50-point performances on the 1st and 3rd of November. 41.8 against Philly, but he didn't shoot the ball particularly well from what I saw. I didn't see what the final box score ended up being, but I watched that game, and it wasn't beautiful. I will say that. What are you kind of noticing? I guess Anthony Edwards, 7,900. Harrison Barnes, 7,400. There might be more small forwards than I anticipated clicking on tomorrow on FanDuel.
I think it's going to be more of a mix and match than anything here. The thing that caught me off guard was I must have missed Kelly Oubre's just god-awful games because I thought he was having a bit of a breakthrough, potentially going to be a decent sixth man for these guys. He was
starting when Gordon Hayward was out. And that helped. Yeah.
And so I'm just looking like the last game he played the first quarter, his rotation in the first quarter, the second quarter, he played 4 minutes in the third quarter and then never came back in the game against Golden State. Everybody wants to talk
Cody Martin's season, didn't you hear?
God, so his rotation now looks like it's the end of the first, beginning of the second, and then the end of the third, and he does not play in the fourth quarter.
Nope.
Damn, that is a development I'm glad I looked at here because he's
Terry Rozier being back too. I mean, there's a number of factors. Gordon Hayward back, Terry Rozier back. Cody Martin has been playing 20 plus minutes a game, 27, 25, and 20 his last 3. So yeah, Kelly Oubre is going to be a definite no, I think, unless everybody is sitting for Charlotte. I might play the water cooler guy in the event over Kelly Oubre if he's available off the Charlotte bench. But yeah, Kelly Oubre has been Oh, 13 minutes a game. Yeah, that's going to be a tough one for me. Yeah. Carmelo Anthony, 6,300. But if you don't have that Anthony Davis news until like right beforehand, Carmelo, willing shooter of the basketball, willing participant in shooting basketballs. So I will throw him out. It's kind of a last piece. Last piece. What am I talking about? One other guy that just needs to be addressed on this podcast because Buddy Hield has been a thing the last 2 games. I don't want it to be a thing, but he's been 30 plus fantasy points. I think he's viable. Not my favorite play in the entire world, but shout out Rimpack. Somebody had to say his name just because. I mean,
let's ride.
There it is. Kevin Durant on the top end on Yahoo 51, Jimmy Butler 42, DeMar DeRozan 36, Harrison Barnes 29, RJ Barrett 25. Starts to get really, really weird. I mean, I don't really like any of those guys, but I really like Gordon Hayward at $24. Gordon Hayward's going to start filling it up here again. We saw the 42-point outburst he had against Golden State. I expect more of stuff like that, even though they're in the middle of a 3-game losing skid here. I think that they're obviously in full gear here at the moment. I'm not sure how to even analyze that. But Josh Hart, $15 really sticks out to me. And Joe Harris, if you need a punt, eventually he's going to have a game where he knocks down all of his shots. That just isn't apparently going to happen in 2021. I was wrong about him. So there you go. Anything that stands out for you on Yahoo, Emac?
No, but the Cody Martin at 11, and since he is getting the last 3 games, he's got all the fourth quarter minutes where Kelly Oubre got none. If he can just get anything prior to that, that's not a bad number, but I don't know that we'll need to go to an extreme of punt as that. But just noticing some of these changes in rotations and misconceptions that we have, especially with hockey going on, NFL going on, NASCAR just wrapped up. We had a big MMA card this week. You can lose out on seeing things that change in the rotations, and that's something that if you're not ahead of and you're not just trusting projections or you're letting your biases go in from what you thought was happening, you're going to step off the curb and get hit by the dump truck. So,
all right, heading over to Power Forward on DraftKings, we're going to fly through these last 2. We got Anthony Davis, 10-2. He's questionable. He's a huge part of this slate. Him and Brandon Ingram both at this position. Gigantic pieces of the slate. John Collins is at power forward. He's probable, but we've seen him pop up late in the day, questionable the last 2 slates, and he's played both times. So I will say that, I expect that he's going to play, but just having it on your radar. A lot of power forwards. PJ Washington is out here. Said that he's going to miss the next 2 games. I'm assuming that means yesterday or when you're listening to this Sunday, and then also Monday as well. So there's going to be minutes, I think, available for some guys. I guess Plumlee's just kind of playing all of them here at the moment. McDaniels hasn't touched the floor, so we don't have to get too thin with that. But on the top end of power forward, I think the conversation starts and ends with a sub 10K Kevin Durant for a pay up. For him being $200 more than Randall, I think it makes sense. Randall's going to be on a back-to-back here. They just got embarrassed at the Garden by Ricky Rubio. Maybe he goes out and puts it down, but Kevin Durant, 9,900. And then DeMar DeRozan, for whatever reason, 8,200 there. Power forward only. Maybe he is power forward. I don't know. Positionless basketball, I suppose. Somebody that you could click on there. But Miles Bridges becomes my priority still at that position. Who are you noticing on power forward on DraftKings?
Just probably the main one, just to reiterate, is going to be Julius Randle at 95. Oops, that's FanDuel. It's going to be Julius Randle at 97. That's really the only one that stands out other than what you had previously mentioned. That Gordon Hayward 69 is okay on DK, but man, he is a steal on Yahoo.
Yeah, I think this is why you play multiple sites like Emac. Play every slate, play the early slate, play the main slate, play the night slate, play the showdown slate, play the backup of the showdown slate, play the second half slate, play the flash draft, play whatever.
Tiers, don't forget tiers.
Don't forget tiers. Don't forget, what else do we have here? We have got, I don't even want to say other sites because, again, Yahoo is the priority here. So, yeah, there's Emac, and he is player of slates, master of all of them. A nice college football slate yesterday, by the way, sir. Well done by you. That was nice to always see. My guy over here putting a W up on the board there. Mo Harkless, if you're looking to super punt, 3,300 Mo Harkless. Paul Reed also played 22 minutes, so 3,300 for him. I think
Paul Reed started, just in case you didn't notice.
Yeah. I did because Furkan Korkmaz did not, and the world was set ablaze. So it was darkness in the streets for some people once he started knocking down every 3. It was actually really funny. But here we go. Anthony Davis 10-6 over on FanDuel. Kevin Durant 10-5. Julius Randle 9,500, a little bit better there. Bam Adebayo, you can play a power forward over on FanDuel. Not a power forward, but confirmed you can play him there, so I would probably do it. Harrison Barnes 7,400. Rashawn Holmes starting to show some flashes of ceilings, and then he goes back down to earth. He's kind of He's like what is it? Like Jordan Alvarez is a terrible comparison. I mean, it's like who's the guy just a home runner? Mike Zunino. He's absolutely Mike Zunino of the NBA. He either hits a home run or you get nothing and you're drawing completely dead. So enjoy that for the baseball people. Rip. See you guys again end of March. Waiting for that already. But what stands out to you over on FanDuel?
Well, Rashawn Holmes it's all foul sequencing. If he gets his fouls early, he's screwed because they always sit him. I don't just let him foul out. He never seems to foul out, but he gets a lot of fouls. Like almost every game he has 4. Flirting with 5 is not a problem. He gets 3 in the first half or early on, and he's going to sit till halftime. That's where you lose your minutes with him. We saw him get a 20 rebound game 2 games ago, and then the games around that he played 16 and 28 minutes because he got in foul trouble and stupid sequencing. So he's someone that is always viable in tournaments, but he's very matchup dependent. And if he's going to go against somebody where he's going to pick up ticky-tack fouls, just stay the hell away from him. I think we don't talk enough about Jonas Valanciunas here. He is playing heavy minutes, although in his last 2, he's only played 29 and 31. But prior to that, he played 36, 33, 32, 36, 39, 36. You can't play him at
power forward, can you?
Sorry. I went over.
You're okay.
I was trying to get ahead here because I know we're running long.
You're just fine. I'm looking at the power forward. We'll round out power forward here super quick. And then I do want to talk about J-Val because I always like to talk about J-Val. Gorgie Jang, 4,700. He'll garner some attention on FanDuel as well.
Jaren Jackson Jr. Let's go with the triple J.
Jaren Jackson Jr. is the guy that I want to talk about too. Yep. $22 over on Yahoo. That is a fantastic tag. Kristaps Porzingis, $28. Both of them are guys that I'm going to have some interest in. Porzingis, 6,700 over on DK as well to kind of flash back to that one. Played 27 minutes, put up 40 plus, but I'm expecting if he can get 30 plus minutes, he's super viable at that spot. Hopefully that rest, taking some time off, kind of helped him get right because he can be a fantasy point per minute monster given he's good to go here. But Gorgie Jang, $11 over on Yahoo. I'm still going to go back to it. I didn't play him last time out. Again, against Chicago, it was kind of a strange situation seeing Paul Reed starting, and then you're not sure what Furkan Korkmaz is doing, and his price has kind of gone up around the industry. But he stayed at $11 over on Yahoo. I think I'm going to go back to that. That kind of stands out for me. Anything else for Yahoo FanDuel power forward?
No, that hits the key high notes.
I love that. We get to round this out. Center position, very last position. That is how this works. There's 5 of them on the basketball floor, positionless basketball. Nikola Jokic, $11K on the top end. Karl Anthony Towns, 10-3. I don't know why they just give me a discount on Karl Anthony Towns, even though he's been terrible and it's been personal fouls and turnovers that have just absolutely mauled him. Maybe stop complaining, Kat. That's an idea I had. But at 10-3, I'm going to have a ton of him. Joel Embiid, I don't think that those minutes can really get to a place where he's going to be the priority. But hey, if he decides to put up nearly 2 DraftKings points per minute, like 34 minutes, 57.75 DK points, it's basically like 1.75. Yeah, sub 10K, definitely some interest there. But J-Val, 8,500, hasn't been as good here the last 2. The minutes have trended down a little bit, but here's why. They've gotten their asses beat. So I'm definitely seeing J-Val being a guy you want to roster at 8,500. I'm hoping people look at those 2 box score numbers and just don't realize that at 8,500, he still has a massive ceiling playing 34, 36 minutes, so long as that game stays competitive against Dallas. Talk to me about center, Emac.
Nikola Jokic. Michael Porter Jr., I think, is going to miss a couple games here, it sounds like.
That. Yeah.
So that is just one less option out there to even take a hint of usage away from Jokic. People are going to say, oh, but Bam Adebayo is a good center. It's Jokic. No one is really equipped to guard him. His last 3 times against Jokic, he has 56 these are DK, 56 fantasy points in 32 minutes, 43 fantasy points in 34 minutes, and 40 fantasy points in 30 minutes. He's averaging a 20 or just shy of a 20 and 10 and 7 assists per game. He's going to be just fine in this matchup. Everything goes through him. The question then becomes is you like to talk late swap, you like to talk your little strategies. I like to talk the position cost, especially since I'm playing more on Yahoo, of center. it's hard because yes, you can play two centers, but they don't have the multi-position eligibility, and you really lose out on your flexibility of your last utility spot. If you play two centers, you're almost never getting one from the last game. So it can be very difficult because those usually are one where the really good value plays are. And it's also where you can get a lot of differentiation because generally the top end centers, because it's costing you that flexibility, are not quite as popular as they ought to be for their price. But Jokic is just standing out across the board, and that's something I didn't think I'd say when I first looked at the matchup.
Oh, I love that. I love that call by you. And also Will Barton confirmed going to be a thing tomorrow as well. Curious to see some of the after effects of having no Michael Porter Jr. out there. That's definitely going to be some usage available for some people. Not that Michael Porter Jr. has beaten the door down. I would say he got paid and then just kind of coasted a little bit. We've seen some double doubles from him in spots, but the shooting volume has not been nearly what you were hoping for out of a guy getting paid that amount of money. If you're a Denver fan, kind of rounding out a little bit of center. So, I mean, we talked JaVale. You brought him up earlier as well, and I just covered him as well. Nikola Jokic, love that. Rashawn Holmes, probably an overspend, but yeah, he could go nuts. Bam Adebayo, 8,100 on DK. Opportunity cost of the position, but he's going to be very popular there. I'm looking at somebody, and again, I can't believe I'm about to support this Yahoo, but, it is what it is. We're going to look at Mitchell Robinson as possibly a thing here. Coming off of today against Cleveland, he got off to a trailblazing start, and I don't know why. He only played 17 minutes in that game. I'm going to have to go back through and find some stuff out there, but it was somebody that I kind of looked down on and didn't think was a very good play. But with Embiid out there, Julius Randle out there, I think that there might be some unexpected minute volume there for him. I want to make Mitchell Robinson a thing. Can we make Mitchell Robinson a thing at 4,300?
I'm looking at his last 4 games against Embiid. He's only gone over 20 fantasy points once, and he's actually gotten the minutes. 29, 25, 29, 13. Throw that one out. But I'm going to have to say no. He fouled out 5 fouls, 3 fouls, 4 fouls. So, and even minus 19, minus 1, minus 10. I'm just going to no. He's the guy that if he gets 5 blocks, is on Yahoo and on FanDuel where it's 3 points per block, it just racks up. I mean, it's 18 points all of a sudden. That's not an out of the in any game that could happen. I just don't like the foul issues here against Embiid. The price is right for sure. Just if you're only going to get 12 points from him or 15 points from him, you're dead in the water.
All right, heading over to FanDuel, kind of look at this quick. Mitchell Robinson, 5,300. No interest there whatsoever, like zero. I'm just simply throwing him out there because he's 4,300, and it was a little bit jarring to me. Frank Kaminsky also there at 4,300 on DK. I still expect him to be popular coming off of that game. No, DeAndre Ayton had kind of alluded to that. He played 29 minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up starting even, but you still got to have some interest in JaVale because JaVale generally has been the better fantasy point per minute producer over the course of their career. They're right next to each other, 4,200 and 4,300 on FanDuel. I expect to have a lot, and I mean a lot, of both of those cats. How about you?
Absolutely. Do we know what the heck they're doing with the backup centers in Sacramento?
Nope. None. They don't know what they're doing. I mean, it's just Sacramento's just going to be a headache for a lot of this. I mean, Alex Len generally has been the guy. He played 20, then he played 0, then he played 20.
Yeah, and then Tristan Thompson.
And then Tristan Thompson played that game in between it, but then he's not a thing. Tristan Thompson's busy shooting a TV show with the Kardashians. So, I mean, let's be serious. He doesn't care about anything at the moment. To Yahoo, we go to finally round it out here. We got Nikola Jokic, $53. Karl Anthony Towns, 44. Oh my God, do I want all the Karl Anthony Towns on Yahoo? That is ridiculous. Same with JaVale, $38. That combination of those two is going to be crazy, but I still got to look at the bottom end here. Here we go. What is the magic price tag for these Phoenix Bigs? We got Kaminsky, $11, and JaVale McGee, $10. JaVale McGee, $10. I mean, those two, God, I want to play 48 centers on Yahoo tomorrow.
Again, it's where the best value is, up and down their salary sheet.
And the highest ceilings with like a Jokic and a Towns at 44. Oh man, center is going to be really, really hard. You better get it right. Let's just put it that way. Center, most important position on the slate tomorrow.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to riding up the DFS building blocks with the Yahoo discount dandy focus there, because I'm gonna have to parse out what are we doing with Frank Kaminsky and what are we doing with J-Val. Well, yeah. I will say that is one of the later games of the night. If you're looking for a discount dandy, you can put them in the utility spot, and then if you leave $11, you can choose whichever one you're looking for. I ended up splitting them with my Yahoo lineups on Saturday night with my remaining games, and it worked out for the Comiskey lineups, not so much for the J-Val. Glad I did it because I started with J-Val.
Maybe the most important thing I can say to you, if you have dead lineups, or if you have somebody who just duds in a lineup and there's no way you can win, you cannot play J-Val and you cannot play Frank Kaminsky in that lineup. You just are not allowed. Repeat after me. I will not play Kaminsky and McGee in dead lineups. End of story. There you go. If you have the nuts, go ahead and play both of them. Enjoy your evening. That's fantastic. But that'll do it for us. DraftKings, FanDuel, Yahoo, we flew, and we still went over because you know what? That's how much fun it is to talk NBA. Emac, any final words for the people after your very first, and you crushed, by the way, your very first NBA Slate Starter podcast?
Well, thank you for having me on. I look forward to filling it. Not even filling it. I look forward to being the placeholder until Rinpack is back.
Oh, stop it. Stop it. Easy, I'm me. We'll catch you guys later. I'll see you tomorrow.